I am the current chairman of the Shelton Chamber and also the executive director for Crossroads Housing here in Shelton, in charge of the homeless program for Mason County. So can I get everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This lovely little prepared document, so Heidi can keep me on track. Do we have any board members here? Hands up, anyone? Yay. Yay. Thank you for your service. Today's program will provide insight on local transportation construction projects. If you plan to drive anywhere in Mason County this summer, you'll want to know what roads are closed, what time frame, and what kind of work is being done. I would like to welcome today's speakers, Steve Roark. Did I track that? So sorry. With Washington State Department of Transportation, Mike Collins of Mason County, and Jay Harris with the City of Shelton. First, we will hear from Steve, the Olympic Regional Administrator. Steve has worked for the Washington State Department of Transportation for over 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Held a number of engineering and leadership positions in project development, construction, and maintenance. Throughout his career, he has worked up from Transportation Engineer 1 to a leadership role in HQ as the Development Division Director for the State Design Engineer. Steve graduated Oregon Tech and is a registered professional engineer in the state of Washington. Steve grew up in Hood River, Oregon, enjoys family time, cycling, traveling, yard work, tinkering with cars. Today we will hear from him on Washington State Department of Transportation's plan in the area for upcoming construction. Welcome, Steve.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And our company policy lets me take this off when I'm speaking, which I'm grateful for. So, let me see if this works. There we go. Can y'all see that in the back? Well, thanks for having us here today. I wanted to start off with just orienting y'all to Olympic Region. The state of Washington is divided up into 6 geographical areas for WSDOT, and Olympic Region is one of those. We are, as you can see there, 7-county area. And you know, the 6 regions around the state, our mission is to deliver products and services for our customers, which includes all of you. And as you can see, we do that by planning, designing, operating, maintaining the system. And the system is a lot of stuff. I just put a few bullets up there. We own a lot of stuff, a lot of lane miles, a lot of bridges. And you know, our job is to run that effectively, and we don't do that ourselves. We do that with the help of industry, with the help of all of our partners, the 48 cities in the Olympic region, the 171 unincorporated areas, the 13 tribes, and a whole host of inquiring minds that are interested in transportation. It's just about everything runs on the transportation system. So I wanted to, before I go into construction this year, I wanted to talk a little bit about winter operations. This was a particularly tough year for us at WSDOT. We were, I'll use a technical term, we got slammed. We have 49 state routes here in Olympic Region, and at various times, starting in mid-November until early March, we had over 140 water over the roadway incidents on 28 of those highways. We had 111 tree down incidents. We had, similar to this one on 101, which, if you all recall, 101 was closed north of here for over a week, I believe. We had 31 slides here in Olympic Region on 10 different highways, and 6 of our state highways were closed at some time or another, and one of them still is Highway 112 by Jim Creek. It was a tough year. We have a process with the federal government where we process what we call disaster maintenance work orders. We have 19. Hopefully, we get reimbursed for a lot of the damage and costs to repair the system. But I thought I'd share just a couple of the pictures. I'm not sure if you saw these. This is 119. I headed up to Lake Cushman. This is why the road was closed. power lines down, trees in power lines, that sort of thing. And a little closer to home here, this is just right up the road here at Pretty Creek. And I think we had the highway closed here, I think for 2 days at the end of February. All right, enough about that. Let's talk about upcoming construction. I want to start, I kind of divided this up into types of work. So we own a lot of bridges. You saw in the first slide, there's 650 bridges just right here in the region. And you know, their average age is older than I am. I mean, it's in the 50s, mid-50s, in terms of, you know, most of our bridges were built during the interstate era and shortly thereafter. And so what you see here, you see the orange dots on there. We are going out this summer in those locations. Of course, of interest to you is right here in Shelton. That's at Shelton Matlock, Railroad Avenue. What we're doing is we're trying to preserve the length of time between when we have to replace these bridges. So we're doing deck repairs, we're doing joint replacements, we're doing that kind of work. The news here is in our communications team, you're going to be hearing, the community's going to hear from our communication team real soon. We are going to propose closing US 101, high impact, short duration, get in, get out. So traffic would be ran off the off ramps, back up the on ramps, so that we can get in and get this work done as quickly as possible. The alternative is night after night after night of impact. So you'll be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. This work, we've let the contract who's doing all these sites, they told us they might like to come to Shelton in mid-June, so it's coming pretty fast. But so anyway, stay tuned for more. Turning to highway preservation, we have 2 projects. It's actually 1 project, but it's 2 different locations. We'll be chip sealing DST work on 106, the entire length of 106 from 101 out to Belfair, and then a 4-mile section up on Lake Cushman Road up on 119. Recognize these are popular recreational routes, and chip seals are not our favorite either. We end up not just paying for the work, we pay for windshields later. I encourage you to just slow down, patience. And why do we do chip seals? Ideally, we like to pave, but on our routes with lower traffic, and frankly with lower truck traffic, trucks are what damage roadways. BSTs are an economical solution. We can't afford to pave and overlay highways everywhere anymore. So we use chip seals really to keep the water out. Water cracks, water is what damages highways, that hit from the heavy vehicles. So chip seals, we get about 7 to 8 years out of a chip seal. We get about 12 to 15 plus, depending on traffic, out of an overlay. So we can get 2 chip seals for the, it's about 4 times less in terms of money for a chip seal. All right, someone mentioned to me that to bring up the Navy's project here, just going out of town on your way to Belfair. They have a seismic retrofit. There's a pier here, there's a pier, you can't really see it in the picture on the other side of the road. They want to do this work this summer. They're working with my team to get the permits in place to do that. We want a good communication plan on what's going to happen before we authorize the work. It could be 6 months worth of work. We have not seen their schedule yet. It's probably alternating one-way traffic, so they'll push traffic on one side of the road while they work on this pier and then swap traffic over. So this is going to be a little bit of a hit as you're going out of town. Not a DOT project, so don't call me if you want to complain. All right, fish passage. It's a big deal for the agency. We are under a federal court injunction to restore 90% of the habitat you see in that shaded area by 2030, which means we have spent years and years and years building out a transportation system and putting culverts under highways that are now barriers to salmon and other fish. Hundreds, and I'm sure you've experienced some of our fish passage jobs. We're replacing culverts with bridges, sometimes 3-sided structures. Long story short, we're making a culvert, turning it into a much bigger opening, and restoring the fish habitat. We have a lot of those here in Mason County, the whole region. We have roughly half of the fish barriers in the state right here in the Olympic region. So this is not this year, this will be next year. We have let this contract. It is a design build contract, and every one of those dots is a fish barrier. So it's primarily on Highway 108, and there's one Griggs is down on 101. It's going to be high impact. Our typical operation here, this is design build, so I can't tell you exactly what it's going to look like, but typically we do what we call a shoe fly. We'll maintain the lanes, and we'll take traffic off the side while we replace the culvert with a bridge. We are talking about some high impact, short duration closures on 108. So we may detour traffic around 108 to get in and get out as fast as we can. So more to come on that. And our commitment is you understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, what it's going to look like while we're doing it. So we'll have a good communication and community outreach as we move this forward. Again, this will go summer of 23. And then Toronto State Park. There is a fish barrier right at the park that we've been working really hard with the park on and others. Would have been nice to do it when we do the chip seal this year, but it's not working out that way. So next year, we will impact everybody twice. That is, we are also looking at a closure here, a 20-day closure of Highway 106 with a detour. So that is what's being explored right now as the traffic control strategy. Anyway, this will go also summer of 23. And moving to the improvement program, we have a huge investment here in the community. We've actually received extra money, additional $12 million for the Belfair Freight Corridor. It used to be called the bypass, now we call it the Belfair Freight Corridor. I think it's 5 miles, roughly a 5-mile segment. I'm not going to read the bullets to you, but it's a big benefit for Belfair. It takes traffic out of downtown. It's a limited access facility, which means very few approaches are allowed to connect to it. And summer 2024 is currently when we want to start construction. However, that $12 million we got from the legislature this year, there's some talk that we thought the intent of that money was for cost escalation. Cost of construction materials are going up just like everything else. But we've also heard anecdotally that a connection at Romance Hill and a connection at Log Yard Road is the intent for that money. And if that's the case, we will not be going to construction in 2024. It will be probably 2026 because we will have to go back and renew our environmental document. Our NEPA document for this project did not assume any connections, so we'll have to go back out and redo all of that. So we're working through that. I don't have an answer for you today, but construction's coming relatively soon. I can leave you with that. And just a couple snapshots. This is the south end of the freight corridor. I'd orient you. This is 302 coming into 3. Belfair would be right up here. School, the football field's right there. It's a double roundabout design with connections to the school. We have multimodal paths for active transportation uses. And then at the north end, this is the Lake Flora Road connection. It's not going to be a T intersection anymore. We're bringing everything over to, I guess that would be the south, and this would be your way into Belfair today, and then this is the way to take the bypass. So roundabout constructions on both ends of the corridor. And then I thought I would mention just out of town here, Agate and Pickering. You may have saw our online open house pre-design work on these. We're proposing roundabouts at both intersections for safety reasons. Roundabouts are incredibly good ways to reduce the severity of accidents, as opposed to a signal. So these will likely get built in 2024. And that's what I have here. That is the sum total of all the fun WSDOT projects in Mason County. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. So is the Belfair project going to go on in the next year or so, or not? I was a little confused.
The freight corridor?
The bypass, they call it around here.
Yeah, what's called the bypass. That's what I'm used to calling it too. It is, we're designing it. We plan to go to construction in 2026.
Oh.
We will not go to construction in 2026 if we have to add connections. Right now it's a limited access facility. There aren't connections, except at either end. If we have to add a connection at Romance Hill, Log Yard Road, we have to go back and reevaluate our environmental document, which will take 18 months.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, I'll leave you with one more that I forgot to mention. In the Move Ahead Washington package, the new transportation package, there's also 35 million for phase 2 of the Belfair widening. So we widened, sidewalks, two-way left turn lane in the middle. I think that stops just south of the school right now. We have $35 million to continue that down to the intersection with 106. The catch is, we don't know yet when we're authorized to spend that money. It's just not spelled out yet. So that's one other item that's coming to the community.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So on roundabouts, I was in a discussion a little earlier about roundabouts and big trucks and going over the top of roundabouts rather than driving through roundabouts. So can you describe more maybe about the how the roundabouts are built? Are they really tight ones? Are they bigger ones for better freight mobility?
Yeah, I mean, so let's take this one as an example. This is a freight route. We know it's a freight route. It will be designed for, we call them design vehicles. We design for small trucks, big trucks. This will be designed for the maximum size vehicle. They will be expected to, I mean, their trailer wheels will go up on the apron. They won't be able to stay on the, typically you see a roundabout, there's a raised island in the middle. Mountable, it will be designed to accommodate the large tractor trailer trucks, as on the other end.
Yeah, great, thank you.
You bet. Yeah.
I'm confused on the fish barriers, the bridge versus the culvert. Why don't the fish like culverts?
That's a fine question. Typically, it's a couple of things. If you look at a lot of our culverts, there's a hydraulic jump. I mean, the culvert literally spills down and the fish have to jump up to get through it. It's also the velocity. A lot of our culverts are on pretty steep grades. I don't know the science behind it. I'm not a biologist, but it's velocity, it's the gradient, it's all that. There's a term called stream science, a stream simulation that we use and the biologists use to design these things. It really gets at being able to get upstream. We've opened hundreds of miles of habitat here in the region already with what we've done. And we do see the fish upstream where they weren't before, so we are seeing results.
That's great.
What about dams? I hear about the ladders they construct next to them. Is that helpful with the fish going upstream?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
A number of years ago, I was a county commissioner, and I had a project to the Lynch Road, 101. And we're trying to create a partnership with the tribe and the county and the state. So is this project ever going to happen?
Lynch Road.
Lynch Road?
So right now, we made improvements at Lynch Road. I want to say I can't remember, a few years ago. We added acceleration and deceleration lanes.
3 or 4 years ago.
And when we look at intersections, we do it through our safety program. Every year we have engineers studying safety data, where we're having crashes and where we're having fatalities and injury accidents. The data right now shows we don't have a problem at Lynch Road. So I do not envision any investments. There are no investments on our books right now for Lynch Road beyond what we've already done.
Yeah, also, the state provided value engineering, and before you drop down, toward Taylortown, there was a rise, and you were thinking of putting a bridge there and all that. So, but this is still, 15 years ago. So.
Yeah, I remember the study you're talking about. We have frontage roads tying into the Camilchi interchange, and A, there wasn't the money to do it, and B, the solution that was selected, it solved the problem, at least for now, from a safety standpoint. All right. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate you asking me out. I'd be happy to come back anytime.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Mike Collins, a professional engineer, professional land surveyor. His career experience has been focused on operations, engineering, and maintenance. Mike worked 32 years in Pacific County. The last 10 as Public Works Director Engineer before becoming Mason County Engineer Deputy Director in February of 2020. He oversees 70 employees and staffs the county's TIP CAP Advisory Board. Mike is married with 3 grown children.
Wrong one. Good afternoon. So at the county here, we have several projects that are going to close roads and affect some traffic. Currently, we're going to be, the first closure will be Belfair to Huya, about milepost 6.5. We're going to be replacing a culvert with the county forces. The reason we're closing the road is because it's such a deep cut. It's like 18 feet deep cut, so trying to build a detour around it's going to be tough. So we'll close that, detour everybody around the North Shore for about a week during June 13th. The next closure will be down here on the North Shore, Katy Creek, milepost 6.9. That'll be closed from July 25th to 29th. And, we're replacing a existing 3-foot diameter culvert and putting one that's 18 feet wide. There's a good question back there. Fish barrier culvert. Here's the next one on the North Shore. It's milepost 16.9. It's another 3-foot diameter culvert. We're going to put something about 22 foot wide, 9 feet tall. This one will be stage construction, so we won't have it closed. We'll have one lane. Agate Loop. Agate Loop is going to be closed for probably a month or close to that. We got a contractor to replace this culvert. Red Side is the contractor. He's wanting to get in there sooner than later. But in any case, it's another one. It's an 18-foot box culvert. So, Harstein Island Bridge. Harstein Island Bridge is a $3 million project. We're going to scarify the existing surface and do a polyester polymer application on that. We've got a lot of exposed rebar and spalding areas and stuff, so we'll actually be redoing the deck. It's going to be one-lane traffic, so there'll always be some passage, but kind of hard to get off the island without it. So. A couple of our gravel road conversions. We're working on Sunny Slope, California, and Sunnyside. We're going to convert them to chip seal roads. We've got about 50 miles of gravel roads. And through tip cap that they've been pursuing, try to get us to convert some of them. So the guys have been doing really good. This is all the county forces. Maintenance activities. Our chip seal program for this year, we're going to be up on the Tuano Falls area, Belfair, Tahuya, a couple places out Shelton, Matlock, Brockdale, doing a little bit for the Skokomish tribe, so we're going to be all over. Unfortunately, the best time to chip seal is when the most traffic in the summer, so bear with us. I don't know if you've noticed around here in Brockdale, Mason Lake, McEwen Prairie, we've been actually paving our gravel shoulders and converting them to a hard surface for errant vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians, and such. So we're working here for an STP project, funded project this year up on Mason Lake Road. So it's been really improving a lot of the shoulders around, so they've been turned out really good. And that is the short list.
Anyone have any questions for Mike?
Yeah.
When do you plan on doing that chip seal for Sunnyside?
Sunnyside chip seal, it will probably be in the latter part of the summer, so probably in the September area. We're going to try to get our big roads done first, and then the gravel roads, what you have to do is you have to prep them right then and then shoot them right away before they get tore up again by traffic. So, it'll be in September probably.
Thank you. And when do you anticipate doing the Great Bend culvert replacement in Tibby?
Great Bend is going to be, I've written it down. It's in it.
And also Harsty Island.
Harsty Island has not went out to contract yet, so we just know it's going to be the later part of summer. They want to do it because of weather in late August is the ideal. Great Bend is in, so we got July, it's in August 15th. Week of August 15th.
It almost seems near some of the slide areas too. It seems very close to them.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. We're actually requesting some FEMA funding for some of those slide areas along the North Shore. We've actually been doing quite a bit of work along the North Shore. If you haven't noticed, with drainages and stuff, we've been preparing those areas so that they don't get out of hand again. So.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I am pleased to introduce Jay Harris, who has worked at the City of Shelton and as a Public Works Director for 2 years. He previously served with the City of Newburgh, Oregon, as a civil engineer and then Public Works Director. Prior to his service there, he gained 2 decades experience as a civil engineer with a private sector company. Jay now oversees 35 employees in engineering, street, water, wastewater, stormwater, equipment maintenance, and repair division. He has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Portland State University and is licensed as a civil engineer in Washington and Oregon. He has been married to his lovely bride for 34 years and have 3 children. He lives on a 50-acre homestead in Oakville where he tends the orchards and rhododendron gardens.
Got a few things going on at home and at work, right? So anyways, it's good to see everyone today. We have a project that's going to affect people. It's Railroad Avenue from 8th to Pacific Court. So we'll hit the right button here. Here's my PowerPoint. So the project has been in planning for a while, starting around 2019. And the project scope is going to be new curbs, pavement replacement, new striping, obviously. Concrete sidewalks are going to be on the south side of the roadway all the way up to Pacific. On the north side, not all the way, and I'll show you some pictures in a second. We got a bus shelter going in at Pacific Court. The bus stops there now, blocks traffic, so we're going to put in a shelter and a turnoff there. Bunch of stormwater improvements. Currently, the stormwater goes directly to Goldsboro Creek, and we're going to change that up a little bit. I'll show you in a minute. Water main gets replaced for the whole length. Putting in a few more street lights. There's some gaps that are missing on the roadway. And then there's a flashing beacon and a sidewalk improvement that happens at 9th and Railroad to serve Evergreen Elementary. It's not part of this project, but it's going to be happening about the same time as the project. Everyone will think it's sort of the same thing, but it's not. It's different funding. So existing conditions, when you're at 10th, you're looking towards the bay, you can see we got a lot of issues with the roadway. Most of it is just damage to just years of truck traffic and automobiles, and it probably should have been paved some years ago. The proposed improvements, that's an artist's rendition, obviously, but I hope that it should look very close to that. So this is up at Pacific Court, again looking east. You can see the existing roadway and the proposed roadway and the sidewalk on the right side there. The sidewalk over on the left side, that's the Simpson Railroad corridor that the city now owns. There's going to be a multi-use pathway built in there. We're working on some preliminary designs on that, and hopefully secure some construction funding and sort of roll it out in phases. So the transit improvements I spoke of, Pacific Core, we're going to actually put in a turnout there and the bus shelter. Stormwater improvements, we're going to take the water, treat it, and then infiltrate it. And then there will be some overflows that continue to Goldsboro Creek, but those are during the really high, large storm events. So significant improvements because the water is running directly to Goldsboro Creek right now, which is obviously a fish-bearing stream. Water system improvements, the water size is underlined, a bunch of different material types. We're going to replace it with 12-inch ductile iron pipe. The project is held up right now just because of ordering the pipe and parts. You know, valves can hold up your project, right? If you don't have the valves, but you have the pipe and everything else. So I'll talk more about the construction timeline in a moment. All new fire hydrants, and we're putting in a few extra to fill in some gaps that existed. So the Safe Routes to School project, it will have flashing beacons to get people across Railroad Avenue over to Evergreen Elementary. And we do have 2 other locations in the city. One's up at the high school, and the other one was, so we're doing 9th and Railroad and high school, and what was the last one, Jeff? Come on, Jeff. Come on. Oh, I know where it was, right by Safeway.
Yes.
We're right in the same area, right down by Safeway. That is highly used right there. Buses are coming in and out and all that. So it's been our #1 project on our 6-year transportation improvement plan. We did get money from the state, from Transportation Improvement Board. Some for the sidewalks, some from the roadways, for the roadway overlay. That was 2019 though. You fast forward to today we have, because of inflation, we have some issues with costs and funding and that sort of thing. We got those resolved. So the low bidder was Miles Construction. That's Miles Sand and Gravel, right? They're right on the project for the most part, which is really good. They've got a local company that's going to be able to use their quarry right there as a laydown yard. Council's approved the contract. Waterline parts are on order. We hope to start in July, probably latest in August, so is what we're anticipating, but we're still waiting on those waterline parts. And then we're thinking the construction will be mostly completed later this fall. They'll be wrapping things up during the winter. And they said Valentine's Day is their end date next year, okay? In terms of roadway closures for the project, we're anticipating using Franklin Street as a one-way and have a one-lane closure on the roadway so we can keep both ways going at the same time. The water line in some instances is right in the middle of the road though, and that's really a problem. So we might have some nighttime closures and that sort of thing where there's just not enough working room to get all the men and equipment in there. So the water line is going to be the big holdup on the project of really closing the road down. We do a good job though. You'll see our flasher boards out there a week ahead of time saying the road's going to be closed from this time to that time. That sort of thing, so people will know more about it and not drive up on it that day, right? So here's my question slide, but I found some pictures from the Historic Society. So 1917, you drove on mostly dirt roads, right? And you were up to your knees in mud, right? And then I found a picture of Coda Street. They were paving in 1926. And then you could see vibrant Coda little 1940s, people walking around doing their shopping and all that. So I'm open for questions. You guys are being easy on me. There you go.
Do you think you'll ever put like a roundabout where the four-way stop is on Rockdale?
Yes, there's plans for that in the future. Roundabouts are expensive, $2.5 million, and that is from a few years ago. I'm anticipating that price went up. And so the city does want to try to get into more roundabouts and less signals. They're safer, especially for the pedestrians. We have higher pedestrian traffic. It's safer in roundabouts. Then also cars, if you do get a few wrecks, you don't get you don't get the rear end and that sort of thing. You get these really low volume because people aren't traveling as fast. But they do need to be designed for trucks, right? And make them accommodating to all the design vehicles, right? So it's in our plans, but we do need to find final design funding for that and construction dollars. Yeah.
With WSDOT closing 101 at the second exits in Shelton, what are you coordinating with WSDOT with that project and then also the project on Railroad?
Yes, we're not expecting any full closure at this point. We're going to have people traveling through the project, but if we do have any full closures, we'll definitely need to talk to all the agency partners to make sure we're not affecting each other. Yes?
So if we have vacant property along this corridor downtown, what do we need to do to make sure we've got future water services or other things? Are you going to allow for that, or do we apply for that? Because obviously you're not going to want your road dug up after that's done.
That's correct. Quite a few of the parcels are already developed. We're putting in all new water services to anybody that already has a meter. Currently, if you just contact our engineering division, Ken Gill, the plans is to put a few extra services out, but I'm not quite sure exactly which lot you're talking about and all of that. But if you don't have utility stubs and it looks viable, we'll stub utilities. In some instances, we wouldn't, like in a larger parcel where there could be like 4 or 5 houses and you don't quite know where the laterals would be or where the meters would be, you know, that's a problem. But if it's like a single family home site that's not developed, maybe the house was removed some years ago, we would update the services if it exists or put in a new service if there's not a development going in there in the future. So I can get you Ken's number if you need it. So, or I can give you my card, you can contact me, how's that?
Okay.
Okay? More questions? Great, thank you everyone.
No more questions. Thank everyone for joining us today. Hopefully this program provided you guys all some insight on your daily travels and upcoming projects. Of course, I'd like to extend a thank you from the Chamber to all of our guest speakers today, the Department of Transportation, Mason County, and the City of Shelton, for all their work in creating a strong infrastructure and strengthening our transportation system. So thank you. Little housekeeping reminders. May 25th, we have the ribbon cutting at the Met Academy building at the high school. June 8th, this is after hours at Good Enough Communications from 5 to 7. And July 15th is the Expo and Bite of Mason County. If you have not registered, get in touch with the Chamber. Thank you all.